Russia's submarines and naval ships cross into the buffer zone off of Alaska. Now, this is one of many, many incursions, and not to mention they've been crossing red lines left and right. Given the now breaking news of today, this is definitely going to be looked in hindsight as one of many, many events. The U.S. Coast Guard said Monday that it tracked a group of Russian naval vessels, including 2 submarines, as they crossed into U.S. waters off of Alaska in an apparent effort to avoid sea ice, a move that is permitted under international rules and customs. Crew of the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Stratton witnessed the Russian military vessels cross the maritime boundary and venture 30 miles inside an area extending beyond U.S. territorial waters known as the U.S. Exclusive Economic Zone, the Coast Guard said in a news release. The Russian vessels consisted of 2 submarines, a frigate, and a tugboat. The Coast Guard said the encounter took place nearly 60 miles northwest of Point Hope. Now, as far as what they say and what is true, we don't actually know. Of course, they could tell us whatever they want, and by they, I mean our gov, our media, and of course their gov and their media. As far as the military in our groups, and as far as the active duty military right now that are stationed in the Navy, many of them are over in the Middle East. Some of them are in Europe, but both said that things are absolutely heating up. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about the pager explosions that happened. Of course, they say the IDF was able to hack or somehow make thousands of pagers basically go kaboom. We're also going to be talking about everything that has just transpired in the last 24 hours, including breaking news from the last 2 hours of a potential deep strike inside of Russia with long-range missiles. If that is true, we are all in need of prepping. We will be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on? Let's do a quick roll call. Nat Tate, thank you for being here. Michael Kozlo, somebody said if the Russian ships are off of the Alaska coast, why aren't there a bunch of our jets there? Maybe we don't have enough. I'm sure we do, but of course they say under that article, they're saying that it was because they had to avoid ice, which is okay. So if that is the truth, that's a good thing. But the placement of them doesn't make any of us feel more comfortable considering what has gone on potentially in Russia in the last couple hours. Right now, if there's a nuclear submarine off of the coast of Alaska, as Russia is getting struck in the heart of Russia, if that is the truth, then hopefully they don't pop back up somewhere else. As far as Jammer, thank you for being here. Thank your mods. Drop an M in the chat for all of your awesome mods. Of course, you can find them over at marfooglenews.com/friends. Lots of great people over there. And let's get back into the news with my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine. But I'm a little concerned with everything that's going on, and it's getting crazier by the day.
So let's talk about radiation levels mysteriously spike along Norway's border with Russia.
Yeah, so get this. Traces of radioactive cesium-137 have been measured along Norway's border with Russia, as they revealed that today. The radiation levels are clearly higher than normal, authorities have said, and the cause of the mysterious spike is unknown. One fears that it could relate to Russia's Pankovo test site for the Burevestnik, a nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed cruise missile. So this is the missile that they say can, I guess, fly indefinitely because it's nuclear-powered. It's got unlimited power, so it can basically fly around and navigate at a high speed and then strike, and obviously being nuclear-armed. So both nuclear-armed, which is scary enough, but then nuclear powered. It's an experimental weapon. We've heard them launch it. Some people have dubbed it the flying Chernobyl. It's because it is capable of remaining in the air for days or even weeks as it probes weaknesses in the Western defenses. But I think in the past they've had some examples where they've tried or tests that they've launched that they had some failures with it, obviously in the early stages. But the fact that it's nuclear is also an issue. You don't want a nuclear device like that to fail, even if it's not armed with a nuclear warhead, but it still has a nuclear powered engine in it. So anyway, the suspect is that maybe that is what is causing that spike, and maybe there has been multiple launches of those happening or testing going on there.
And they say that the levels are clearly higher than normal, but pose no risk to humans or the environment. If any of you have any kind of theory on this, I'm sure over the next couple of days, somebody will probably come up with something pretty wild. But as far as, what is really happening, the flying Chernobyl, one thing I thought of is they also claimed to have a torpedo that could do the same, that could basically stay in the water for almost forever and navigate and turn and basically go anywhere in the world. This is at the same time they also declared that they have some sort of nuclear tsunami torpedo. Most people say, oh, they're just trying to scare us with all of this stuff. But I think that people really put it past the people at the very top and think that they really wouldn't do something to hurt the majority of the people on the planet. If you think that there's nobody at the top that would basically, if they had the power to wipe 85-90% of people off this earth, do you think that those people don't exist? I mean, heck, with the arrest of Diddy, if you have heard some of the details of what this guy did, it sounds just like the documentary about what's-his-face, the actor from House of Cards. It's like these powerful people, and this is on a lower level. Now, Diddy, I guess, was up there, right? He had the ability, supposedly, you'll win a Grammy if I, call the right person. Same with what's-his-face from House of Cards. I can't remember his name, which I guess his career is pretty screwed, huh? Spacey, Kevin Spacey. If you've seen the documentary about the stuff he did, he would force people to do things and tell them that he was going to get them the acting career. They called him the mayor of Hollywood for a while. Same with Diddy. Diddy is like the music equivalent. EpiPen was in the financial world. It seems like every industry has this guy that does all of these creepy parties and weird stuff, right? Well, with Diddy arrested, he had, now there's videos supposedly of Cuba Gooding Jr. in the court documents, essentially Diddy telling Cuba Gooding to do things to other people, to other men. I mean, like, there's just all sorts of creepy stuff, and it's like you see how they look at regular people, and they're so rich, they're so beyond anything we could even think of. Like money, imagine money not being an issue whatsoever. Like, I know some of you may not have much and say, oh, I don't even care about money, but still you have to pay your rent, and sometimes you might cut it close, right? We all do. But as far as, imagine where there's so much money you could buy a $1 billion, skyscraper and still be good, to buy a $2 billion submarine / cruise ship, and that's just your yearly makings. Those kind of people, they are not on the same thinking level as all of us. In fact, they believe they are gods. And I really do think that they believe they are the gods of this earth. They might even have some real belief of this. Who knows? They might be part of a group that is related to some sort of bad god. I don't know. But what I do know is they do not care about us. The statement, they're not like us, that applies to all of this. With this, it's like, to think that Russia wouldn't do it, I guess you're also looking at both sides. What if we are being lied to about everything? What if, things are totally not what we think and something else is driving it, and we really do get in a position where they end up shooting nukes everywhere? Who knows? But what I do know is that all of the richest people in the world have their golden passports. They've already cashed out all their stocks. They're doing fire sales of all their land. They're getting, of course, citizenships in other countries. They're building bunkers like we've never seen before. Just take Atlas Survival or Atlas Bunkers. That guy's company has went from, like, he was doing videos in his basement. Now he's got warehouses and things. He's making bunkers all over the world, and it's no exaggeration. I've talked to a friend that tried to get one, and they couldn't even get to it for like ever because they were doing it. The guy that owns it is traveling around the world doing bunkers everywhere. So, it's like things like this. Why are so many people doing this? There's got to be information that most of us don't have, and I think we do have it. We just are in so much doubt of our own theories, and we're getting so confused by so much information coming at us with so many people, different opinions, that really we don't go with our gut. Your gut should be telling you that there's another CV type event, but it's going to be worse, and it's not going to get better until it gets worse, and that is coming. That's why preppers prep. So again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And then, Dex, let's go over Kim Jong-un reviewed plan to attack South Korean Missile Command.
So this is interesting. They, I guess some pictures were released, and they're exposing in the pictures that he was looking at these plans. So the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un observed a special forces training lesson last week on infiltrating South Korea's Army Strategic Missile Command. So obviously this is a schooling episode that they do for their military, but in the process of him being there, as them showing photos of him being there, you can see, or they were able to decipher from the photos and the satellite images they were looking at, what exactly they're going after, which was the strategic command of South Korea. So an invasion of South Korea. Lots of pictures, lots of detail on the satellite imagery. Now it does show that the imagery was a little outdated, maybe 2021. So it wasn't up to date, but it still was valid enough that they were able to determine what they were teaching in that lesson there as these photos were released. So it's been interesting. There's been a lot of photos of Kim coming out. Like the last one before this was the photos of him in the nuclear plant where they were creating nuclear fuel. And I think it even came out later that they were able to determine which location that was based on the size of the building and the structure. Because they knew of a certain number of buildings, and they were able to determine that building was at which location it was, which I guess may have been a bad mistake on his part to let a photo out that could then reveal the exact location. But again, maybe not. Maybe he is putting this out for a reason.
And I'm going to show you, let's see here, to take over, let's see here. I'm going to pop something. So, yeah. So let's go to the map here for a second. Now, so you have North Korea. Essentially, you're seeing the messaging that they're looking at South Korea. What would they be looking at for, right? Unless they're talking, invasion or a war with South Korea. I mean, everybody knows things have not been going well with them. They took down the reunification statues, these giant, huge monuments, some 120 feet tall, huge, road archways that basically signified that someday they were going to get back together with basically their own kind, their own people. They have no DNA differences. This was one country that basically split down the middle in the Korean War. And they never called peace. They're still technically at war. They have a DMZ, a demilitarized zone, but they're still at war. So they've had all of these different signs. Obviously, everybody looks at Kim Jong-un as crazy talk. But now Kim Jong-un and North Korea are puppeted by either China and Russia or both. In Iran, they're working extremely closely. They've all been signing treaties. I just wanted to also, remind you of the Venezuela stuff. So, of course, it's like Venezuelans, this is right before the Pick the Prez Day, Venezuelans approved takeover of oil-rich region in Guyana. What happens next? Now, to go to the map here, so if you actually go to these areas, right, you have Guyana is right next to Venezuela. And they are ending up going to take their neighbors. And then, of course, with, you have China now also practicing, making full mock-ups of essentially what they were going to do to take Taiwan. And you have Iran and Israel. All of these are lining up at the same time. So here's Venezuela, right? Guyana. Do you think it's a coincidence that they are all doing in separate their own plans to take over their neighbor, and it's just a coincidence that they're also signing treaties with each other, and people think that this isn't about to go down? I don't know what to say. The only way to beat the U.S. is to split up our military, and that's exactly what this would do. Almost every one of our adversaries has now said, hey, if we're ever going to do this, we all equally hate the U.S. We've got to do it together. We're tired of the U.S. being the number one, and we need to do something big. They've been talking about it for years, and in fact, people go, oh, well, they've talked about that for years. Well, exactly. This is something that takes planning for decades. This is something that's probably been in the works since I was born. And now it is happening. You are actually seeing the framework being built for the largest world war of our history. World War I and World War II will look like nothing compared to what World War III will look like. And many, including myself, believe it has already started. This is why I just want to pause for a second, and I do want to remind you guys, make sure to get your friends and family in on this. Make sure they realize all the stuff that's going on. You may follow this every night. You already know about all of this. This is, preaching to the choir. This is beating a dead horse. But I do want to make the point. There are so many around you, and I know all of you can state this, that you have 1 million friends, 1 million coworkers, that this is the last thing that they know. They don't even know Venezuela. They don't know where it is. They can't point to it on a map. They don't know, why it matters. They don't know why Cuba matters. They don't know why Iran matters to the U.S. Why Israel and this whole thing with them. They don't care about Taiwan. They say, well, if it's not happened here, who cares? Well, because our gov cares, and our gov and our military, they're going to send things all over the place. They're going to try. They've already said that they were going to try to protect Guyana. They said they're going to try to protect the Philippines. They said that they're going to try to protect Taiwan in so many ways. They are now saying, obviously they're protecting Ukraine. They're giving them stuff. That's also a money thing. And then they're also protecting Israel. If you have all of these wars happen simultaneously, there is no way that the U.S. can't just pick one. One of them will lose. Or if we spread the military thin and they coordinate this with something like a cyber attack, a large one that the W and the E and the F, Mr. Klaus, told us about, or an EMP, all of these things happen all at once. That is how you would completely cripple everything. Not to mention cripple our money and our monetary system, everything else through other venues, through all of these other things that are happening, the strange events that have been happening for the last 4 years. You think all of this is a coincidence? It's been more than 4. It's been more like 8. All of these events have been in play for a long time. So when I hear people say, oh, you've been saying this for years, that's because it's been taking years to build. This isn't a Lego, okay? This doesn't take a couple hours to build and then it's done. Think about how long a wedding takes to plan. Think about a world takeover. I mean, how much planning goes into that? How many meetings, how many in-person meetings they would have to do, especially with the US and CIA listening to everything. And who knows, they might be even, controlled by other entities anyways. So maybe it doesn't matter if they monitor. Maybe that's the whole point. I don't know though, but I think that people really should be paying attention to what's going on. And before we move on, again, this is why we've suggested go get yourself an EMP shield. Protect your cars, your trucks, your motorcycles. This is a device you can put in 10 minutes and it will protect your car and allow it to run after multiple EMP strikes or a Carrington level event from the sun. If you're not paying attention to the solar events, highly recommend Wage's World channel. He's on our friends page. He is covering it every day, every night, every flare that happens. He is on top of it. He's been doing a really, really awesome job covering all of it. But again, I highly recommend that you guys go over and check this out because, again, this device is going to do the trick. This is going to allow your car to run to get home. It's going to allow your truck to get out. It's going to allow your generator to run after multiple strikes. Now, with this in general, there is also a home version. Make sure to look at your state, whether you can do it yourself or you have to have an electrician. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. Not to mention all the other stuff that's been going on. They keep talking about these non-nuclear EMPs. Watch in the next couple weeks, you're going to see more and more about the non-nuclear EMPs. 5-mile radius, people can put them in a backpack and knock out huge areas of power. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to become top priority for law enforcement, but it seems like they are on the low preparing for something just like it. They're not going to protect you when all of this goes down. They're going to have their hands full, so you might want to do it yourself. All right, and then make sure to use MARF, $50 off. And then omnipresent AI cameras will ensure good behavior, says Larry Ellison. Now, this, Dex, I'm going to let you go over this. Again, resident techie, this is so creepy. It's unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah. So, Larry shared his vision for an AI-powered surveillance future during a company financial meeting. He described a world where artificial intelligence systems would constantly monitor citizens through an extensive network of cameras and drones, stating that this would ensure both police and citizens don't break the law. I'm going to repeat that because I can't imagine this world, but we know we're heading down it. And these big tech billionaires are marching us right towards it. So a world where artificial intelligence systems would constantly monitor citizens through an extensive network of cameras and drones, stating this would ensure both police and citizens don't break the law. I mean, come on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we are constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on, Ellison said. We're going to have supervision, he continued. Every police officer is going to be supervised at all times, and if there's a problem, AI will report the problem and report it to the appropriate person. This is a scary, scary world they are painting. Be careful, folks. This is where we're... And by the way, it's not like this is new in the sense of big tech and policing. 6-7 years ago, they were trying to build systems for policing by looking at social media data and what was being said on platforms like Twitter at the time, which was pre-Elon. They were trying to build systems to be able to predict, kind of like Minority Report, who's saying what and where they saying it to redirect policing based off of social media information. And that was 7-8 years ago, AI, and I wouldn't call that AI. It was probably more like machine learning and linguistics and heuristics. But what they've got today with the latest and greatest in AI, This is pretty scary. This is a scary world, and this is what they're painting. And this is one of the, top 3 richest men in the world.
Somebody says it's already painted. This is going to happen. This has already happened in China to an extent. But one of the quotes here is they said the 80-year-old billionaire has also predicted AI-controlled drones would replace police vehicles in high-speed pursuits. Not just high-speed pursuits. First of all, this is already starting to begin. They have already cleared with the FAA. There is a reason why they have cracked down on the hobbyist as far as drone operators. Now, of course, it's much, much harder. They've cracked down on all the different companies. It's not just because China has their cameras in the sky. It's also because they are going to gain control of that chunk of airspace. Commercial sector is going to gain that control. That is going to be for delivery with Amazon. That's going to be Walmart. That's going to be all these things. This is also going to be teamed up with the VR, the coming kind of VR evolution that's going to happen, or the revolution that will happen in digital land. As far as all of these things, you're going to be able to essentially do everything inside your home. This actually, you said Minority Report, some said 1984. It's also another movie. If you remember, Songbird was a movie that was eerily made extremely quick about CV-25. Now, I don't know if they made the script before all of that and then they just changed the name of it to that, but it came out during CV when we were all stuck in our house. I think it was a Netflix movie. I don't know, but it came out, and it was about 2025, and it was about CV 2025. They show in that movie that there's a whole guy that basically his job is to fly a drone around and to follow things. Well, he had a weapon on his drone and pops the guy in the movie. Go see the movie. I won't spoil more. There's games like Watch Dogs that show Watch Dogs London, I believe it is, or whatever the third one or second one's called. But it shows a city that's basically all drones, every drone. There's commercial drones, there's delivery drones, there's police drones, there's fire drones, there's pallet drones, there's all these different drones. This is actually getting the framework built for it. So that's going to happen. It says you just have a drone follow the car, he explained. It's very simple in the age of autonomous drones. Autonomous drones, if you've been following that space, I've seen some pretty amazing TED Talks of what these things could do 5 years ago, let alone what they can do now. Like Dex said, Dex, you were talking about 6 or 7 years ago, they were doing this with very basic AI, and what did they call it? The algorithm, basically what did you call the very first ones? Algorithmic learning machines? Is that?
Yeah, it was with machine learning and heuristic, computation. It's the framework for where we have today with these more advanced GPTs. But it was early stuff from like 6-7 years ago. They were doing this. I mean, it started with it started with what was very benign, like marketers trying to understand what's being said. Like if Pizza Hut wanted to know what people thought about their new pizza crust they put out. You could leverage what people are saying on Twitter or on social media and try to scan all of that information and come back and say, you know what, people like it or people don't like it, or people are saying this about you or saying that about you. And then they quickly went from saying, oh, well, that maybe, it's one thing to tell marketers what's going on so they can understand what people are saying about their product, but can we turn around and use that same thing and productize it and send it off and ship it to policing solutions? Of course, here in the States, it didn't really it's not something that you would have seen right away because public, entities here aren't just up and rolling out social media monitoring systems, but they started to now, but 6-7 years ago they didn't, but in other countries they did. And that was one of the things they were trying, a lot of the tech companies were building back then.
And as far as somebody made a comment, says the drones are too loud, they need to make them quieter. Oh, they already have. And by the way, there's government drones that are absolutely silent. They have different blade technology. Even with the drones that you're probably seeing back when you first bought DJIs, they had the regular blades and then you could buy the quiet blades. You put on the quiet blades and it was like, a quarter of the sound. Now they're so much more quiet than you ever see. Just like an electric car is just buzzing by, just quiet. I think at one point we will live in a pretty quiet world. Dex, go ahead.
This whole thing that Ellison is saying, and for many, Larry Ellison may not be a household name. He is in the tech industry, but to regular consumers, he may not be. But this is interesting. Just 2 days ago, or maybe even a day ago, he became the second richest person in the world, dethroning Jeff Bezos. And he did that because of their stock value of Oracle going up significantly. And it's gone up significantly because of the role they've played in the AI boom. So for this guy to talk about AI being used to monitor the public through cameras and other technology, it's a big deal. This was also the same platform that Elon Musk was going to use, and he actually ditched Oracle. I think that was back in July. He ditched them to build his own systems, not his own hardware. Oracle was running a massive cloud AI system. They were building out for the future of AI. So Musk had originally done a deal with them and then bailed out of it and to do his own. So, Ellison, it's important for everybody to know the role that this company is going to be playing in AI, especially with them making these statements like that. Pretty crazy.
And as far as, gosh, this guy is supposedly, now this was 5 years ago, so he was 75 years old, but geez, for 75, it makes you wonder, what kind of stuff they're having as an extra drink at dinner. What the hell? Or the cream they put on their face. The cream they put on their face might have debuted on Oprah. That's all I'm saying. If you catch my drift, if you get what kind of skin is in the game, if you top the cut, I don't know. You catch what I'm throwing. You basket what my ball and I tried. You guys get the point. And as far as this goes, would you guys like to see a video? We've talked about many of the different things that are probably going to change, and actually most of these will change in the next 5 years. Would you like to have us put together a video talking about all of the most likely changes, what our world will look like in 5 years if everything is adopted? Like somebody else says, I don't know if you meant what I'm about to say, but rules-based engines. Say you get in your car and yeah, you're not supposed to drive drunk. But what if your car then senses that you are intoxicated or tired and remotely shuts down? What if you are wanted by the police and the police are able to click on your license plate, then open up a screen with your car on it, and then turn it off and pull it over to the side of the street? That is all coming, and there's actual laws under the drunk driving stuff that is going to be put in play, and every manufacturer will have to put these kind of things in the future. So buy your classic cars now. Not to mention, if you do have the ability, if you have extra spendable cash, you might want to get an older car. Some of the older classic cars, you won't even need an EMP shield for. They don't need all that because they don't have all of the digital stuff. But as far as the cars now, how you travel, where you travel, how you're watched when you travel, how you spend your money, what money you spend. All of these things are going to change. Would you like to put a video together of a world in 5 years or a world in 10 years? Let me know in the comments down below. I think it'd be a fun project for us to put together all of the info on that, and we would be glad to do it if you guys want it. And then South Korea removed 1,300 cameras from its military bases after discovering that they're designed to feed back to a Chinese server. Now, this could, again, I don't want to say, this could be Ganda, only because I'm trying to be devil's advocate here. Or this is a message or a narrative that they're building so everybody here can go, oh yeah, DJI and all of these other things that are going into play can be furthered. Or they literally have done what basically we have thought has been happening for a very long time. Any of the cameras that have been manufactured over there might have some sort of back door. As far as this goes, Dex, do you want to talk about how South Korea just removed almost 1,500 freaking cameras in their military bases?
It's kind of fitting given what we just talked about, but it's also kind of a dumb on their, in my opinion, on their part, because what they're talking about is these Hikvision, Daewoo, and other Chinese manufacturers that have already been banned from, certain parts of our government, not being able to be used in military bases, things like that, because there have been issues and known issues of backdooring of data from these cameras. Now, mind you,
The Diddy door.
Mind you, if you go out and buy any camera system, especially in a big box store, I don't want to throw the big boxes under the bus, Costco, Sam's Club, whatever, they sell those little camera systems for small businesses and for homes. If you buy any of those and it's affordable, I guarantee you, for the most part, it's made in China. It's not made in America. The made in America ones are like 5 times the price or 4 times the price. Axios and a couple others are really, really great companies, but they're so expensive that none of us are ever going to buy them or can't afford them. It just doesn't make any sense. So we all pick up the small pack that makes sense that we can put in our small business or around our house. But they're all built by China, and we really have no idea what is being done from a potential backdoor to them. And I kind of laugh that, South Korea is just now getting around to saying, well, we got to take those cameras out. Like, yeah, we've known that for a few years. That's been talked about here in America for quite some time. And, but yeah, it is a known issue. And the downside is they're the really only ones making them at the moment, at least making them affordable, because they're very expensive, especially the ones made in America.
Now, I also want to point out, we have known, just like you said, we have known for years. That means South Korea and any of our other allies have known. So really think about that. If we've known this and they're just doing something now, they're being forced to, right? That's what they said, one of their quotes. Why are they doing it now? Is it especially important that right this second they cannot have North Korea, China looking at their cameras? Think about it. China and North Korea have now teamed up with Russia and Iran and Cuba and all of these Venezuela, and all of these parties are teaming up. Now North Korea is looking at satellite photos of South Korea, and now they're also at the same time removing all of their cameras. Maybe they are preparing for something, and maybe if you don't want your enemy to see that, you definitely get rid of any chance that could be seen. So the timing of it, I think, is pretty obvious. And no, I don't think it is propaganda. I mean, we know that China does this, just as if we manufactured cameras here in the U.S., I guarantee you every other country would be saying the U.S. is spying on us. So China manufactures cameras. I guarantee you they are trying to get your information. We know this from every piece of information that they are getting and that they have been caught stealing. They want as much data on every single citizen in the world as they possibly can get, because they're working on weapons that can actually utilize that data. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, the reason why it is so simple for them to get this is because we're so lazy. And we're lazy in the sense that we're lazy technologically. We want to be able to buy a camera and plug it in and grab your phone and look at your camera and go to the store and look at your camera, and you don't want to understand how the technology works. So we want it to just work. We want it to be simple, and that's why we buy it, and that's what happens. Well, for that to actually do that way, they have to sort of phone home to a system so that your phone can phone home to a system, and they can connect together and bring the video image that's at your house to your phone and do all of the connecting behind the scenes for you. I'm trying to oversimplify it. But as we as Americans or anybody would just learn some of the technology, you can actually do a lot of this stuff yourself inside your own network and lock out the rest of the world so that nobody messes with you. But we don't do that. And I'm not blaming us, because it is pretty technical, but it's absolutely just part of being lazy and simple. And it's like, well, we need it to work, so we just buy it and we go, okay, I can see my home. I can make sure the kids walked in the door. That's good. I want to know. And never mind the fact that back door that makes it so easy for you is the same back door that China's looking through your window with.
Yep. And with AI, and they're ahead of the U.S. in 37 out of 44 of the key advanced autonomous and AI sectors there, where some of the advanced technologies, that was according to our Pentagon, 37 out of 44 key components of that kind of sector. And it's one of our chief software officers, a position that was actually made for this person because of their unique talents. They resigned, and as they went out, as they left the U.S. Government, they wrote a letter basically saying, I don't want blood on my hands. The U.S. is behind, and now that it is behind, he's basically said, don't know how he got behind, but it is something that once a country is ahead of you, anybody is ahead of you, it's almost impossible to catch up because it's exponential and it's always going to be ahead. So it is pretty wild considering all of the things that are being said right now. It really is. It's quite terrifying to think about that they are ahead of us. But if they have all of this automated, if they have cameras all over the world that are taking that information, it's not like there's somebody sitting there on the other side taking notes. Now they can use built-in stuff that you won't even see. It might even not look like it has facial recognition. Maybe somewhere else along the line, the information, the video goes somewhere else, then does facial recognition. We know that they've been hoarding facial recognition data, not to mention in their own country, but in others. They can take that and put that through the same system that applies to their own citizens, and then basically have all sorts of information. They could have the AI track your entire schedules, what you do, what your habits are, what your hobbies are, all sorts of things that the AI would be able to do for it and be automated. These are the things that they've already warned us about when countries have, as you know, when you start having, speech to action in the AI world, be able to tell something, hey, I want you to post something every single day. I want you to make a unique video and post it every single day to my Twitter. When you have that kind of thing where it can just be automated and do it for you, that's where our world is going to evolve so quickly you're not going to recognize it. Dex, go ahead.
Well, it's almost like they have rolled out the underpinnings, or probably more so than the underpinnings, but the platforms for a social credit system here for the States. Definitely, you can see it much more so in Europe and UK right now. Whereas somewhere like China, they didn't have to slow roll it or hide it or boil the frog, as whatever analogy you want to use, because China can just lay down the hammer and say, you know what, this is what we do. But the rest of the world, we're all having to ease into it, and it's happening. And whether you like it or not, they're doing it, and it's here. And if you don't think it is, then you haven't looked around enough to see. But it is here. And just go look in the UK and what's happening there with cameras. Look in Europe and what they're doing, and look at how they're monitoring what people are saying, and then causing them what they say to have an effect with them criminally or monetarily. All of these little things are just steps closer to everything that's already happening in China right now. So there it was easy. Just, hey, we can roll it right in, no problem. We can control the entire country. The rest of the world, that's no problem. They'll just do it slowly. And we've been doing that slowly for the last 5 to 10 years. And here we are, and we don't even realize it, but we're pretty much on the brink.
Digital Revolution, nice to see you. Thank you. I got to get caught up here real quick. Thank you, UFO Disclosure TV, not only for your support over on Marfoogle News, but over here. Thank you for being first one out of the gate today. I appreciate that. Thank you. Again, hopefully your creating endeavors are awesome. Redonk, thank you. Carlton Sutton, thank you. 33 Avon 88. Thank you from Europe. Says, thank you, Marf and Dex and all the mods for the daily information. Bless you all. Sending prayers and love to the whole chat. Well, thank you, 33 Avon 88. And then, of course, Scott Dixon says, T-Man and Diddler. Exploding pagers going off, like I say. Stay focused. Look here. Don't look here. Stuff is going to go haywire. Distraction always. Be alert. Scott Dixon also said, to the miss for many years that keeps this going. All deserves shout out from me, and when they thank you, Marf and Des, for the hard work. Well, thank you. I said thank you, Marf and Dex, for the hard work. Thank you, Scott Dixon. And then Again, thank you, Darren. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the few people, actually, that just subscribed. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for subscribing. Manny, thank you for subscribing. Thumper, thank you for subscribing. And Diddy did do it. Is that what you said? Yes. Diddy did do it. Did he do it? Yes, he did. How much wood would a woodchuck Diddy, if he could, Diddy do? I think that's how it goes. All right. And then let's see here. We have UN experts warn of unprecedented Venezuela repression. Before we go about this, let me make sure, I just want to get this in here. If you are a caregiver, make sure to go check out Jace. Or if you don't have any backup antibiotics in your house, some people might have older antibiotics or something that they didn't end up taking, but that's not always the safest route. What is a safe route and what's a really easy route is going and getting a Jace case from Jace. This is a telehealth appointment, so you can get on your computer or on your phone. You do a telehealth appointment with a board-certified doctor, and you can get an appointment done in mere minutes, and you will have a Jace case sent to your home. That has all of the most common antibiotics in it. That way, if there's an emergency, the hospitals are down, there's a hack that affects all of the pharmacies, that will be in your cabinet instead of in some place, inaccessible. So the Jace case, again, is a really, really good and awesome thing. Most people will end up going for that. But don't forget, there is also Jace Daily. You can get up to a 12-month extended supply of your prescription meds. It, again, depends on which kind of med. But there are a lot of meds that they end up being able to supply. You'll get a year supply. You can rotate your regular prescription into it, and that way you will always have a year. So in 6 months from now, the lights go off, you've rotated your medication, you'll have exactly a year on top of that, so you won't be left in the dark as far as meds go. So if you're a caregiver, that's a really, really, really awesome thing to have and to know, and to have the security of knowing that you have it. Go to marfuglenews.com/Jase, Jase, and make sure to use the code MARF. Linda says, imagine how much more information we would learn if they still did call-ins. Call-ins aren't dead. They're not dead yet. It's just, again, after Pick the Pres Day, here's the thing. Our community is a really strong community, and I'm sure most of you actually like it here. Not for me or not for Dex, but for everybody here. Again, it's a lot of people love it here. Majority like it for the other people in the community, for how much they get out of it as far as being in the community and how many friends they've made. So I understand that. Also, as far as the information that we get out every day, it is important. I agree with you, because there's always a fresh perspective with call-ins. That's not over. But understand that they are trying to do anything and everything to try to kick everybody off that does go against the grain. So until Pick the Pres Day, again, we said we are going to continue them, and we'll probably continue before that, maybe do some like Friday stuff. But again, just having random people in, anybody that is still doing that, there has been issues with that. So, and not to mention, we're not a full staffed thing here. Dex, go ahead.
And if anybody has anything that's important that needs to get on the air, it's just an email away. Adam@marfuglenews.com, Dex@marfuglenews.com. We a lot of the stuff we talk about comes from you.
Yeah.
This is not just you and me, it's the entire fam. So just because a phone call can't happen doesn't mean an email can't.
By the way, Adam@marfuglenews.com, you put cover this in the subject, which I've posted multiple times. Probably 4 of the stories today are from Fugel fam. So understand, you are getting that information. It's just not from a spur of the moment call. It's from an email or something else, which might remind you too, it would be awesome too when we had the answering machine. You could always leave a message and we would play it on air. Not too many people used it. So again, if you don't utilize this stuff, you have to run everything tight right now. As you guys know, I'm sure everybody knows, you buy a carton of eggs right now and it's, $80,000.
We're in our own conflict, right? It's a different form.
Yeah, we're in an info conflict. Just so you know, there's an invisible war that we are waging that you guys, we don't sit here and complain about. But it has been pretty nasty over the last 2 years on almost every form of media. So, again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for continuing to send in info. And thank you for your patience. All right. And then, again, UN experts warn of unprecedented Venezuela repression. So mainly, too, this is also a message that when you have this kind of, as they say, repression, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be bouncing out. It says unprecedented repression, including arbitrary use of power, is plunging Venezuela into acute human rights crisis as Caracas steps up in efforts to quash all opposition, a UN fact-finding mission said on Tuesday. Following President Nicolas Maduro's re-pick the Pres Day in July, contested by opposition groups as part of the community, protest demonstrations have left 27 people perished and 192 injured, while around 2,400 people have been arrested, official sources say. The repression, which has reached unprecedented levels of violence, is orchestrated by the highest civilian and military levels of government, including President Maduro. This is again a direct quote from the mission chair, Marta Valinas. It says, some of the human rights violations we have investigated during this period are a continuation of acts that we have previously described as crimes against humanity, Valinas said. It said that Venezuela's government has dramatically intensified efforts to crush all peaceful opposition to its rule, plunging the nation into one of the most acute human rights crises in recent history. It says the repressive response of the state to the demonstration since July marked a new stage in the deterioration of the rule of law. Now, think about what that means for anybody that is there that is going to be on the fence about leaving the country and say, I don't know, going to the USA or somewhere else. Think about that. Now, mind you, 99% of these are not going to go, oh, well, we could find a new life in Mexico. Where do you think these people are going to go? And this is exactly what was predicted. Some other folks said that they were actually predicting upwards of 10 million in a short time span. In the last 4 years, they say that 7.7 million left Venezuela, basically over the time period of this last term, right? They're saying now that he re-won this president spot, they're saying that people are just like, well, we can't do it for another 4 years, and they're expecting up to 10 million to leave in an extremely short amount of time. And now all of a sudden we're seeing people. I mean, I never noticed it where I am, but in the last year, it's been getting crazy. I mean, we're having businesses set up in parking lots all over the cities. It's really incredible. Like, not only the people come, but also the people that the hustlers come, the businesses, the dealers, the gang members. All of these things are coming with. So yeah, you get the families and the people just looking for a better life and trying to get away from this. But one thing that's kind of ironic is they're leaving one place and then they're going to be stuck in another. So it is quite wild to see that happen. It's like they don't understand. In 5 years, we might be worse. What if you moved out of a country because there's a huge blackout, there's repression, you can't speak, no freedom of speech. You move out of a country like that into another. Yeah, we might not be like that right now, and we might have a constitution right now, but who knows in the future? Obviously, they're telling us that the Constitution will be changed if somebody wins the presidential race. I don't know what to say. Dex, I'm going to change my bat here. Let's. You want to go over Diddy, and then, of course, if comments on the Venezuela stuff as well.
Yeah, well, let me give a comment in between the two, and on a little slightly different subject. Thinking about going back to what just happened with the pagers, and you mentioned the non-nuclear EMPs. I wonder if that is an option, because we've heard about, when you talk about Venezuela, and you talk about Hezbollah, and the fact that they have ties, very strong ties into Venezuela, and it's a route through Venezuela into America. If we don't see, either in Israel or even here in America, a use of these quote unquote non-nuclear EMPs that they claim to have, and I say claim, Iran and others have said they've put them in with the Houthis, and they've put them in with Hezbollah. It is not high-tech gear. It's low-tech. It fits in backpack-sized containers, and it's not like what we talk about when we talk about the big ones that the major superpowers can do, which would take out all of the U.S. It's just something in a small 1 mile, 5 mile radius, depending on the size and height at which it's launched or detonated, I guess, is how it works. So thinking about this pager incident, thinking about Venezuela, thinking about the routes in and how many people have come in through that route, and the fact that that organization that's in Lebanon is directly tied through Venezuela, and wondering if they're sitting here in the States, that's a big concern I have when I think about what the response can be to this pager incident. So, but moving on to Diddy do, this topic. So as we reported last night, he was arrested, and now the details are sort of coming out in a great amount of detail, I guess. So John Diddy Combs now a criminal defendant in a trafficking, racketeering, and even kidnapping case after the grand jury indicted him. I also heard that they denied bond, so he's going to remain in detention during this time period. So he's been charged with 3 counts of what I just said, including fraud or coercion and transportation to engage in certain things. Anyway, according to the indictment from 2008 to the present, members of the Combs Enterprises allegedly engaged in these activities, interstate transportation for the purposes of certain things, and coercion and enticement to engage that. So narcotic offenses, bribery, obstruction of justice. It's a massive list that's on this guy. I think I don't know if it said it in this article, but somebody had said the amount of time that he could be looking at could be significant. So why now?
Okay.
Why him? What's going on here?
And somebody said distraction alert. So I agree. This is the kind of stuff that does distract people. This is what people will talk about at their water coolers. And if you only have 15 minutes at work to talk about something, you're going to talk about this. And that means that people are not going to be talking about other things like the attempt on the prez. They're not going to be talking about other taboo subjects, whatever else. This one is mainstream. So everybody is chatting about this. Not to mention, there is a lot that's being put out. I mean, they're putting out some of these files. It's like you actually have the court documents coming out with Cuba Gooding Jr. and stuff in these pictures and the claims, and it's like, yeah, this I'm sure there's going to be YouTube channels devoted to this whole case, just like they were when Johnny Depp and Amber Heard were all in their thing. I mean, I will say I'm guilty. Like, I was watching that whole thing play out too. The Depp Heard case was just absurd. We covered it. But as far as Diddy, this is sick. This is really sick. And even if it is a distraction, the one thing you have to keep your mind on is that this, what is going to happen? Are they going to drop things? Is he actually going to get, 80, 90, 100 years in prison? Are they covering for other people? What about the other people involved? Some said that they dropped the president of the label off of the new kind of documents. So initially they had some of the stuff there, this other person that was involved, and they're higher up in the label or whatever. Now all of a sudden in new documents, I have heard that they have supposedly been kind of dropped out of it. So are there going to be people dropped out of this? Does Diddy have dirt on all of these people? If they say that he truly has cameras all over his house and that he gets videos of all these celebrities, then is this going to be a Diddy do it kind of thing, or Diddy off himself or something, right? And people are going to say Diddy didn't do it, right? That's going to be the new slogan. Diddy didn't do it. It's crazy. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, so, I mean, think about this. I just found it. It says, if convicted of 3 felony counts, he could have a minimum, just a minimum, of 15 years or up to a life in prison. So if that's what you're facing, are you going to, drop the ball, drop the note, so to speak, of who else is involved to lighten that load? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, what else could come from this? Well, and again, I get it, distraction, but there's also the flip side that this guy's now up against the wall. So is he going to, open up the book, so to speak?
I don't know if this is true. Is life in prison 25 years, and then life without parole means like actual life? Like, why do I think that that life is 25 years or something like that? Life means life, right? Until you die. Why do I think that? Is there some sort of side rule or something that if it's... I
think I just read it said that some people, or in the U.S., people serving a life sentence are eligible for parole after 25 years. Doesn't mean they get it.
Well,
and if they're serving 2, then it's 50 years. But but I guess it depends on where you are and if it's state versus fed, etc.
I guess I've always thought it was crazy. I always thought it was weird that they do, 7 consecutive life sentences. It's like, just basically say, you're in jail until you die. I think that would make it a little bit simpler, but I get why they do it, because they're doing it for every charge, or usually when it's that, it's for taking other people's lives, and for each person that you offed or whatever, then it adds up, or each crime.
Yeah, and the option of no parole, then you're pretty much stuck with it as a life, I guess.
You can get life or life sentence. Okay, 25 years is life. Yeah. And then good behavior. So and by the way, I bet this is the other thing. We know that in other countries, it's absolutely true. Say in somewhere like Mexico, if you're a super rich person, you can pay to have all sorts of amenities. In certain other countries, I mean, they live like kings. In some prisons, like horrible prisons, the rest of the population lives like crap, like just slums. It doesn't even seem like a jail. But the very rich people that are in prison, they basically have a bedroom. They have like an office. They have basically a house in the jail, and they're even granted to leave in some of these prisons, some of the worst, because they've basically got a corrupt system. But as far as here, we have heard now there's so much corruption in the jail system, and this is something that one of our family friends, a woman that I know, she was basically attacked or assaulted in a prison. She was in there for several sort of drug charge things, but she ended up getting assaulted and being part of a bigger thing. And this is something I'm going to try to get an interview out of. But essentially, she's part of this huge thing. And I did not know about this. I have not heard anything about this. There are prison systems all over the country that are having these huge corruption scandals. And not only that, there are male guards and whole systems and like these basically that are assaulting the women. And that there's rings and there's all of this huge corruption. Now, I've always known that there's been corruption in jail. There's corrupt guards that might pass things through. But apparently now it is it's coming out that there's like something organized. So I will try to cover it the best I can, and I will try to get the kind of bigger story behind it. But it just shows you that everything is corrupt. We just covered that there was another politician that resigned over some big, huge thing, and that the police departments and all of these other things, everybody is corrupt. This whole world is corrupt. Doesn't matter what state, there's corruption in every level. We know this. It would take a true evolution for that to be solved, and I don't think that's ever going to be. And then 9 perished as the Hezbollah among thousands hurt after the brand new, and they kind of quote, brand new pagers explode. Now, we did a detailed video over on Marfoogle News about this and really talk about some of the kind of different opinions on this. But I do want to point out, if they were able to take these pagers, thousands of them, and remotely detonate them, which many people think they do because many sources are saying that they actually got some sort of message at the time. Maybe that was the trigger. What could they do to cell phones? Now, we don't know exactly if these are brand new. Are they hinting that they bought thousands of them and dispersed them to all of their, terrorists? And then essentially they all were set to go off at a certain time. They say that they were booby-trapped devices. Now, there's video all over X. We can't show you any of the videos because they're pretty nasty. But, I'm sure some are going to say, oh, well, these are all fake videos or whatever. Who knows with AI? But I would say with the amount of video that is coming out right now, because I don't think AI is up to snuff on just long-form video. They always have airs, extra fingers, all that kind of stuff. Maybe they don't at the government level. But one thing I will say is there's so many videos that I don't think this is a wag the dog thing. I think they legitly blew up these pagers. I think they have the tech to do it. If they didn't make these in a factory specifically for this point, like this was a long op and they, had somebody on the inside that decided to buy through this place or they intercepted the order and switched them out, I don't know, we don't know what exactly happened. Some are saying that they were built in Taiwan. Main point is this also outed all of the bad guys in Hezbollah. And I only do quotation because, again, with this, these pagers ended up blowing up. So did it just expose all of these people? Some people are saying this is one of the smartest and most efficient kind of attacks because each person that had that pager was supposedly a bad guy. There was little damage to people around them, or at least that's what some said, but then some say people have, injuries on their face. Why did they have injuries on their face? How big was the biggest pager's explosion to do that kind of thing? One thing I don't get, maybe if you have 5 or 6 people and they're in a circle or something, but why? How big was the explosion on this thing that people they show in the videos have their faces all burned, where some others basically have like a burn or a thing on their side? So, did it go outwards? Did it get people next to them? How big was the biggest explosion? There's a lot of video of people after they've been hurt, but there's not too much about when they actually went boom. So I did think that was kind of strange. Either way, it makes me think if they did it to pagers, could they do it to cell phones? So showed you an interesting video over on Marfoogle News. Definitely want to go over and check that out. Dex, you wonder if it was some sort of frequency that they put through them, or did they implant it? There's so many different ways they could do this. Maybe some of the ways we don't even know yet.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's if there's something frequency wise, that's the scariest part. If it was just the fact that they, basically hijacked a shipment during the delivery process, made changes to them, and then let them finish their delivery, that would be the more what I would hope would be the outcome of this, because I don't want to think that there's something more nefarious going on where all of these devices can be turned into something. And by the way, there's millions of pagers still used in America. I didn't realize this. I had to look it up. They still do that. People use this. Some people use them as secondary forms of communication, like executives and doctors that don't, want to have a notification system that's not tied to their phone. If they need to put their phone down, they can carry a device with them that gives them only the urgent information they need. So, yeah.
By eighth grade, people were over them. In seventh grade, if you didn't have a pager, you were not cool. It's just like kids nowadays. Like now they're like, well, you're in first grade and you don't have a cell phone? Oh my gosh, poor person. I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 24 or something. But either way, I did have a pager. I remember it was the coolest thing, and it was translucent, so you could see the electronics inside. It was super cool. And it matched my phone, my regular home phone that was translucent as well, that you could totally see all the circuitry. Super advanced, super cool. And I think it even had a neon light in the phone. Too bad they didn't have that in the pager. But yeah, as far as this goes, the pagers, one thing that they did say is that the American Institute of someplace here, a couple weeks beforehand, all switched out their pagers. So I thought that was interesting. I guess we'll find out more as the days go on. But some are saying it was a hack attack. I don't know if it was a hack. If it is a hack, that's scarier than if it was planted in from the beginning. So go over and check out our video on that over on Marfoogle News. That video can be shared. We also talk about the general reason why you should be getting your friends and family prepared. So make sure to go check that out. If you came from that video, thank you so much. If you're watching the replay and you watched that before this, comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for not only watching, but giving us a chance. And thank you for watching the entire show. That's really super appreciated. Can't say thank you enough. I'm just blown away by you guys every day. The fact that I see the same names I've seen for 5 or 6 years. So very, very appreciative of all of you. Scott Dixon says, stupid super chat. Can't hear me speaking well through the headphones. LMFO. Oh, don't worry. Sorry that I read it wrong, but yeah, it was speech to text, I'm assuming. Don't worry about it. I'm just as bad. Thank you over on DLive. I appreciate everybody over on DLive. Thank you, Poco Loco, Skyhouse, Kimbria, Laura Griffith, Chance. Thank you for modding over there. And of course, thank you everybody, of course, over on Twitter or on X. And thank you on the Rumble. Make sure, again, go check out EMP Shield if you want to be protected. Thank you so much, Dex, for all of your service today.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And make sure to go check out our moderator team over at marfooglenews.com/friends. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.